The Weeknd has reportedly sold his music catalog for $1 billion. Kind of. Let me explain. Abel, also known as The Weeknd, is one of the most prolific artists we've had this generation. Billions of streams, 120 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Look at some of the numbers for his top songs. They're just absolutely staggering. When we talk about massive artists like Drake, Taylor Swift, Bad Bunny, they all low-key come second to The Weeknd. Like, he is
Okay, I was hearing him out, but when you mentioned the fact that the weekend's bigger than Drake and Taylor Swift, like, come on, let's be realistic here. Drake and Taylor Swift are bigger than the weekend, but in terms of numbers, recently, I understand where he's coming from, but let him continue anyway before I chime in.
the biggest artist we might have. And because he is a unique once in a generation artist, you kind of have a unique once in a generation deal when you go to buy his music. And the reason that this is unique is because it's not an outright sale of his music catalog, and it also stops at the end of this year. They will not own his future music in perpetuity. We have known that the Weeknd era was coming to an end, and this really signals that. Also, Abel still has creative control of this music that he's selling. The deal is structured more like a joint venture between Abel, the Weeknd, and Lyric Capital, who is raising.
And I think that's the main part I wanted to basically highlight because a lot of people are throwing around the billion dollar, catalog sell around when in reality he actually didn't sell it for a billion. He sold it for a lot of money, don't get it twisted, but it was just underneath a billion. But the more important thing is that it was a joint venture partnership rather than it just being an outright, I'll buy your master rights and your publishing rights and then you can go about your day, you know? So the move that the Weeknd has basically made here is very, very powerful, and it actually just shows how far we can go in terms of creativity, etc. Now, will another person basically be able to achieve this? Yes, in my opinion, because what we notice whenever it comes to selling out masters and things like that is that once one person achieves a number, the next person looks at it and is like, oh, but my catalog is way bigger than that. I can achieve way more. And then you start seeing more creative deals, etc. People and different artists have sold, for example, portions of their catalog for a lot of money. So, for example, even someone like Justin Bieber, for example, I'll show you guys right now. So as you guys can see, Justin Bieber sold his share of the rights in his music, right, to Hypnosis songs. And this is reported to be $200 million, which is a large amount of money. Now, this was literally just his portion of his share within his master rights, etc. There are still a lot of people out there that have access to his rights, of course, the record labels he may have signed to, etc. And what I was mentioning before, how this thing basically works is that once someone basically sees someone win when it comes to this, you now start seeing, for example, someone like Bruce Springsteen will now sell his entire catalog for 500,000 or 500,000,000. Actually, I would say 500,000. That's 500,000,000 right there. Do you get it? So this is just how it basically works. Once someone sees something and thinks to themselves, "Wait, my music is way more, impactful. It goes on the radio more often. It's gonna get played in movies more often, etc." That's when you start seeing people leverage their stuff and actually go on to sell their catalog. Now, is this good or bad? We'll discuss this towards the end of the video, but let's get back into it. I'm sorry to pause the video, but hold up. I'm pretty sure you're enjoying the content so far, right? So if you're enjoying the content, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And also don't forget to hit the bell so that it notifies you every single time I drop a video. That helps the channel grow and helps the community grow to the moon. See you guys back in the video.
Raising the funds for this catalog, where Lyric Capital gets to own the masters and publishing of this music, while Abel remains the creative controller of the entire mechanism. For the Weeknd, this is great. If you're ever wondering why major artists take these deals, it's because this music and these companies will outlive them. They will keep making money long after they have passed away. And this is a way to kind of cash in on all the work you've done while you're still alive. The Weeknd is 35. In 200 years, these labels will be here. His music will be here. He will not be. This is a way where he can really reap the benefits of his work while he's still here. And the fact that he still has creative control, I mean, it is really like a sweetheart deal for this artist. And he deserves it. The Weeknd is a
And that's the thing, because a lot of people are talking about the whole ownership aspect, etc. But I just see what he's basically done similar to what you call a private equity kind of play, where you're basically looking at your music and your intellectual property as an asset, right? And you're leveraging against that asset. In fact, I believe there was a video, I'm going to get up for you guys right now, right? There's a video where someone actually mentioned something similar to what I'm saying. And I like their take on it because it really shows what is actually possible, when it comes to this type of deals that's going on. So let me show you guys right now.
His catalog for $1 billion. That $1 billion was just a valuation. However, what he did actually do was take out about $250 million loan against his albums. Then he leased the catalog to an investment firm. And then that investment firm took around 25% equity / stake in his masters and publishing. The Weeknd and Cash XO still control around 75% of the catalog, and they still control everything. So he didn't technically just cash out and walk away. He actually used his music like an asset. Most artists wait until the end of their careers to do this. However, he did it while he was still on top. This wasn't really a music move in a sense. It was more asset management.
And that's all it is, asset management. So I think it's an excellent deal, personally. I think it really is an excellent deal. And the more that we actually look into this deal, we start to realize that this is something that is practically a dream for a lot of artists, When we look into some of the details, right, we can now start to understand exactly what's going on. So I'm going to share my screen again. Coolio. So we got an article up here, and it literally is just a fact check in regards to, of course, selling the catalog for $1 billion, right? So it says in December 2025, Abel, known as The Weeknd, finalized a major partnership with the Lyric Capital Group involving his music career. Reports quickly framed it as $1 billion cash out, but closer look tells us this is not actually quite what they seem. The questions many are asking is, did The Weeknd really sell his entire existing music catalog for $1 billion? And the short answer is simply no. Right? So the videos have kind of already explained the fact that, for example, it's a joint venture business with Lyrical Capital Group. Now, I want to go into the bits where, the partnership covers and what it actually doesn't, because this is the details that as artists and as creators, we need to understand what's going on. So that, for example, let's say if you're an artist that's signed to a record label, you can strive to go into this play. Let's be real, independence, I highly doubt it's going to actually be possible for them to achieve these type of, do you know what I mean? There's different ways to monetize as an independent. When you're not a label artist, for example, and you're in, like, let's say the pop lane, and you want to really leverage yourself, then what you can start to do is actually plan, okay, cool, in 20 years, hopefully my career lasts that long, I'm going to make sure to work as hard as I can and collect at the same time, go on shows, etc., but to collect as much as I can in terms of intellectual property, in terms of hits, etc., so that eventually I can actually pay, or get this big paycheck eventually. Is another way to play it. Is a bit more risky, because we all understand that music is very, very hard to monetize in the first place, but we'll get back to it anyways. Right? So it includes the master recordings and publishing rights from the beginning of his career up until 2025. So anything that he releases further after 2020, now that we're heading into 2026, isn't actually going to be involved in the deal anymore. So this means that, for example, future singles or albums or projects is going to sit outside the agreement, and he's going to own, all of it. Now, the thing is that some people talk about the fact that, that's great, etc. Me personally, I know Weeknd is a massive artist, but with any artist, we always love them for the first few projects. Let's be real. Like, those are the projects that makes us think, you know what, this artist is a great artist. He's the people that we want to look at, and etc. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of those ones where it could work out. Someone like Future, for example, he was able to sell his catalog from a period of time, and now he has, more ownership towards the newer stuff. But let's be real, these artists, are we really checking for them after their prime? It's not really the case, It's rare for you to get someone like a Drake that's able to stay in the game for 10 years, and even now, people aren't necessarily checking into Drake as much anymore, Someone like Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's fan base is crazy, but her latest album, even I think they call them Swifties, right? Even the Swifties were like, we're not really too sure, etc. So it's very, very, I don't know about that part, about the fact that, cool, you're able to earn after this period of time. Of course, it's beneficial, but is it as beneficial as I see people talking about? I am not entirely sure, right? So the partnership between, I'm just going to call him The Weeknd, right? I actually don't know how to pronounce his name properly. And the partnership between XO, Republic Records, and Universal Music Group remains, right? Whilst his publishing catalog remains administered to UMG. The agreement does not affect these existing agreements, showing that this is an investment structure rather than a transfer of controls. And this is the thing that people need to understand. It's a transfer of, no, sorry, it's just literally it's more so like a loan. You know, like for example, when you own a property, for example, what you can actually do is, and this is how a lot of people just get rich very, very quickly. You can get a mortgage, leverage credit, for example. You don't need the entire money. And as you're paying it off, you can then leverage it to get another property. Now, what other people do is that they do this with also businesses. They can go into businesses and do what we call a leverage buyout, where they get the business to actually pay off what the business needs to actually pay to what the business was actually sold for. Do you get what I'm saying? So these are just different creative strategies that you're now starting to see being implemented into entertainment and music, right? We're in a very interesting time, to say the least. Now, why did the deal get valued for 740 million, which was the actual accurate number? So, there's a bit that I highlighted just earlier. 1 second. Okay, cool. So whilst neither Lyric Capital nor Weekend representatives confirm exact financial figures, industry reporting has valued it as a minimum of 740 million, right? However, it's important to note that because the arrangement is not a conventional sale, representatives say that calculating the standard royal multiple is effectively impossible. So again, everyone just kind of throwing out numbers and throwing out figures and saying, okay, cool, it could be this, it could be that. All we know is that the guy sold towards $1 billion, right? We'll hope so anyways. But my people, them, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. If you like this type of content and, you know, the business breakdowns of what's going on in music, etc., literally just subscribe, man, because we do that on this channel. And also make sure to like, because it boosts up in the algorithm. Outside that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.